Now, when you are seeing the same things happen again and again and again, the washing, the toys, the things you stand on, it can be really hard to maintain a happy heart. But I can assure you the long-term impact is worth it. Welcome back to Demystifying Child's Play. I'm Ruth Burko and I'm here to help you understand the hidden patterns in play so you can support your child's development and strengthen your connection with them. Today, we're diving into two powerful parenting tools, play schemas and the love language of acts of service. We'll explore what play schemas are, how they show up in everyday play, and how acts of service can support them. Plus, I'll give you practical ways to nurture these play instincts while filling up your child's love tank. So let's get comfortable. Whether you're out on a walk, catching a rare moment of quiet, or multitasking around the house, let's dive and explore the last of the 5 love languages, which is acts of service, and how we can incorporate it into our everyday play. And as I've said in the previous episodes, this series is based all around the 5 love languages of children by Gary Chapman, which I highly recommend you get your hands on. And we are very nearly at the end of the series, which means there's a little bit of time left to join the mailing list. Everyone on the mailing list will be in the draw to win a copy. No matter where in the world you are, as long as you get post, you can be in the draw to win. So head to playschemas.com to join the mailing list before the end of March 2025. And if it's after then, don't worry, join anyway. I'll be adding regular updates and other things that you might want to win or might be able to get along the way. So, before we get started, also please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at play_schemas, and please leave a review so we've got more parents who can journey with us. Okay, so if you're new here, what are play schemas? It's spelled SCHEMAS, which is a bit interesting to begin with. And what play schemas are they repeated patterns of play that help children learn and make sense of the world. They're not just random habits, they're essential to cognitive, physical and emotional growth. So acts of service, how does this fit in? Now this love language in action is parenting. At its core, parenting is a service-oriented vocation. We're always serving our kids, our families, from changing nappies to cutting up little tiny sandwiches. We serve our children and our families constantly. But when acts of service are a child's primary love language, these daily tasks become more than just routine. They become a way to fill their emotional tank. You can certainly listen to this episode as a standalone, but do go back and listen to the other ones in this series, because acts of service is just like the love language of giving gifts. It's not a love language that can just stand alone. It's a love language that has to be filling their tank alongside something else, so you're coupling them together to ensure it's truly meaningful. Generally, serving our children in the ins and outs of day-to-day life is just what we do, and we don't even think about it. But what if for your child it meant something more? For some kids, they don't even notice what you're doing behind the scenes, but other kids really do, and those are ones who acts of service really fills their love tank. And I have talked about reframing your mindset in other episodes before, and I'm going to say it again in this one. Once you understand the why behind something, it can be so much easier to find joy, or at least do a task without resentment. For example, with play schemas, knowing that your child is working through the transformation schema when they come to you with pain all over their body can help you not freak out, stress less, and just embrace it more. Or helping you know that taking that little bit more time to show your child how to put on their shoes rather than just shoving them on, which we all do, could be the little bit of the love tank they need filling before you head out the door, which could be all the difference between a successful outing or just wishing you'd stayed home. Now, unlike gifts, which is tangible, acts of service show love through actions, by doing things for your children, and they're generally things they cannot yet do for themselves, or they're in those early stages. And while all love languages change and adapt as your child grows and matures over time, with acts of service, we shift from doing things for our children to doing things with them, and eventually teaching them how to do it on their own. And this progression builds independence and teaches the heart behind service, not just the action, the care and intention. Now, teaching children the love aspect of service is the absolute key. So whether it's making a meal for care, you might say, I've noticed that someone's going through a hard time, we're going to make them a meal. Or I noticed they've got a new baby in the house. Do you remember what it was like when there was a new baby in our house? Let's make them a meal. Or maybe baking a birthday cake and putting some extra special time into decorating it really beautifully. Showing that love, showing that care behind the service helps them to learn that service isn't something that's just done because you have to do it, that there's heart and care behind it. It could just be preparing a comforting cup of tea. When they see that this service is done with love, they learn that small acts carry a very deep meaning. Acts of service also models responsibility, where by doing things for them that they aren't yet capable of, and then gradually handing over responsibility as they grow, you're showing them that responsibility. It's about showing them how the household works, involving them in caring activities, and fostering an attitude of contribution. Now, in saying this, I'm not saying teach them, let them do it, and then never help them again. If your child calls for help, still help them. You might be helping them fully, or it might be in a more guided way, but ensure you're listening to your child. Even if they've tied their shoelaces a million times, if they're asking you to do it today, they might just need that little bit more of love, or it might be a day where they've just got muddly hands and a muddly brain and they just need that little bit of guidance. So make sure while you're doing it for them, doing it with them, and then letting them do it on their own, if they call for help, listen, hear, and help them. Now, as with all the love language is best expressed unconditionally, without expecting anything in return. The goal is not just to complete tasks, but to nurture a mindset of serving others with a happy heart. So for example, if you're asking a child if something needs to be fixed, then if you sit down and help them fix it, it's an act of service that teaches patience, problem solving, and care. Another act of service could be donating toys to a second-hand store or to families that need it. You're showing them the act, you're showing them the kindness, but then there's nothing expecting in return. You're not going to get paid for the toys, the family might not even say thank you, they might not know you've given it to them, they don't then get to buy a new toy. It's giving out of the love, giving out of the care. And the earlier you start teaching this, the easier it is. I all know adults, sometimes myself included, it can be very hard to give things away that you're really tightly holding on to. Then you realise, such as some clothing items, I haven't actually worn it in 3 years, why am I holding on to it? So the more you model it with your own things as well as your children's things, the more they'll see the heart, they'll see the care, they'll see the reason behind this act of service, and they'll learn to love and be loved through it too. Okay, so I'm not actually going to go through all the 10 play schemas today in acts of service. I'll go through a couple, and what you'll see is acts of service really is just doing things alongside your children. So it does link very easily with quality time, but with it you're seeing how you can serve your child. So it might be working to set up an activity just that little bit more special, or it could be helping them tidy up a little bit more than you usually would. So having a think how you can just use the normal activities you do with the play schemas, but serving and being a service through it. And also how they can serve each other. So it could be you're modelling how to serve one child, then they learn how to serve another child. So it's all that gradual learning. Okay, so 2 examples for schemas. We'll start with the positioning schema. So if you're thinking how to put positioning schema and acts of service together, which is positioning when your child loves arranging objects in neat rows or patterns, what you can do is engage with them. Sit down and help them sort the blocks. So your acts of service, you're helping them, or lay out their train tracks. But with this, with anything with positioning, always ask how you can help them. Don't assume. They might be making this elaborate pattern that you don't quite understand because their brain's working a different way to you. That is okay. So ask them what they're doing and ask them how you can help work alongside them. Another way could be setting up a really special space or an area for them to do this. So doing the positioning, the patterning. It could be maybe a low shelf where they can arrange their toys freely and have their treasures on display. Or maybe it's helping them keep it safe, maybe from the hands of a younger sibling, or maybe even the tail of a dog. For us, we've got a bench seat, which is a little bit too high for our youngest to climb up on his own. So our oldest knows he can play and put things at the back of it and they won't get touched and messed with, as opposed to being on the floor, which we had an elaborate setup the other day. But of course, my youngest wanted to be in there and play with him and things kept on being taken out, which really upset the older one. So sometimes an act of service is being that protector. So it's saying, yeah, while you go to the toilet, I'll make sure nothing gets touched. And that's a really strong act of service. So another one could be the transformation schema. So how you can link transformation and acts of service. This is when kids love mixing, smashing, changing materials, and they're drawn to transformation play, imaginative play. So instead of seeing the mess as a hassle, change your mindset, reframe, turn it into a shared activity. You could think about the language that you use and ask what they would like to be set up and how you can help them. If you come into it being like, oh, it's just another messy activity, or oh, make sure you keep it in the area, again, tone of voice, which is words. If you're coming to it like that, it's not going to fill their bucket, even if you do a really good act of service with setting it up beautifully. If you're thinking about your tone of voice, which is your words, and the setup, maybe some quality time, this is how they all go hand in hand, you can really fill their bucket. Another idea of acts of service is if you've got the space either inside or outside, you could set up a safe semi-permanent area designated for this messy play, where they've got materials laying out, you could maybe just put a mat, or maybe it's helping them clean up. It's providing them a space that they can work in, that you can work in, and that they're able to use constantly. That's an act of service. Now, acts of service are constant. As a parent, you're doing things again and again and again. It may feel like Groundhog Day when you look around at the floor and you're like, didn't I just tidy this 5 minutes ago? Or you look at the floor and think, I'm sure that was vacuumed recently. Things are constant, and all those mundane tasks are actually all acts of service. Now, when you are seeing the same things happen again and again and again, the washing, the toys, the things you stand on, it can be really hard to maintain a happy heart. But I can assure you the long-term impact is worth it. As children grow, they recognise the service that has been done for them, and the goal is to help them notice and feel comfortable at serving others in return. One thing I've really noticed is our youngest, who's 1.5, is showing acts of service already. He knows that when we're getting ready to go out, we need to get all our shoes out and put them on. So as soon as we say we're going out, we need to get our shoes on, he listens and he grabs all of our shoes. Sometimes he gets a bit frustrated when he grabs me my sandals and I really want to put on boots, and I have to try and explain to him I love that he's helped me, but that's not what I want. But that's an act of service. He knows what happens, he knows what's coming up next, and he's serving. He'll literally go all around the house finding the people to give them the shoes he thinks they need to wear. So starting them early and praising them for it, but I've shown him all of this acts of service while I get him ready, so he's helping me get ready, which is really quite cool. So do have a look to see if your child is actually showing you already acts of service and you haven't really noticed. Okay, so as we wrap up this really quick episode, understanding play schemas really helps us see our child's play in fresh eyes, reducing frustration and strengthening connection. And so when we pair this with the knowledge of the love language acts of service, and as I've mentioned, all of the love languages, it really helps us show them love in ways that deeply resonate with our kids. And maybe, as I just said, have a look at how they're showing it return. Maybe you could be really frustrated that they're pulling all the shoes out and trying to follow you around, for example, but they're actually showing you love in the way that makes sense to them and the way that they can show love, because it's very different for a 1.5-year-old to show love than an adult to show love. So, if you have loved this episode, let's keep the conversation going. Follow me on Instagram, which is @play_schemas, SCHEMAS, for more play-based insights, and also check out the show notes at playschemas.com for links, resources, and ways to connect. And if you found this episode helpful, please take a moment to share it with another parent and rate and review. And until next time, remember, today is a great day to play, and it's a great day to show your kids love in the way they best receive it.